And I'm going to start from scratch. I've got my fabric here that I got from the stitching shop. And I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to show you guys how I would sort of set up my gridding. Now, it's not going to be perfect, because I'm certainly not perfect. And you may want to do this in a different way, because it suits you better, and that's fine. Whatever works for you, and whatever turns out the best for you is totally cool, man. It's totally cool. So let's see here. So, gotta make sure that you orient your fabric the right way, right? So, I know for a fact, because I've already done this once, that my pattern is longer this way than it is that way. So the length is longer than the width. So I can actually pull it out and look at it and go, aha, that is where I should start. So I always start in the upper left corner. And the reason why I start in the upper left corner is because I don't like the idea in a full coverage project of coming to the middle, stitching the middle page, and then moving page by page by page. Part of it is just I know I'm going to screw it up. I know I'm going to get off a row or do something wrong, and then I'm going to have a massive amount of stuff to put together. But it also is just from a standpoint of I like when I do cross stitch, or let me pull this back out. I like when I do a full coverage cross stitch, starting up at a point and filling it in as you go. I like that, like printing a page in a sense. So that's another reason why I do it. You don't have to. You can start in the center if you want to. It doesn't matter. Whatever works for you, right? So then, I didn't bring my ruler up, but roughly, and I cut my thumb again. We'll talk about that. Roughly, I'll just kind of estimate about 3 inches down, 3 inches across. I don't have to be perfect with this because somebody who can frame is going to block out the rest of this anyway. So if I say, and I got my little marking pen, fine point mark begun. And so I've got the friction pens around here somewhere, and I use those as well, but this was the one that I had handy, so I'll get it in place here. So if that's roughly, I know it's not, but roughly an inch, roughly an inch, roughly an inch across. Let me get roughly an inch across, and then roughly an inch, roughly an inch, roughly an inch down, roughly. And then I might even like cheat and go back up a little bit. I'm going to start it about right here. So, got my marking pen. I know that that's probably too far over. It's okay. It's going to be okay. Usually I start too close to the corner and then everything's lopsided on the other end, so it's no big deal. So I'm just going to start by gridding out some 10 by 10 grids here to correspond with my pattern. And I'm just going to start by going all the way down, going all the way across. And then I'm going to try and count. This is hard. The pressure of counting to 10 in front of you guys and getting it right. You think I'm joking. I'm not. As far as counting the things, because I don't have my glasses. Oh, I'm glassless. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. So roughly, I'm going to make a mark there as a kind of a, I think that's 10. And then I go back. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's right. And then I will make my other vertical mark here. And then I'll make one more row. I don't need to grid out the entire first page right now. I don't want to do that for this stitch with me, but I do want to get some stuff done so we can stitch a little bit. 1, 2, and the reason why, you may look at this and go, well, that doesn't look hard at all, but let me tell you, you go cross-eyed as you go across, as you're counting these. Sometimes you can, if you blink, you're lost. You got to start over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, perfect. I'm 2 for 2. I'm starting off good this morning. We're going to also talk about the honey extraction that we did yesterday. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the video. And again, talk about the dachshund. We're going to talk about some aquarium stuff. We got all kinds of things to talk about today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, see? I blinked and I missed it. Now, here's another thing too. So if I basically want to do some horizontal lines here. So sometimes it's easier, instead of counting down, because for some reason I have a hard time with that, I'll just turn the fabric and count right to left, like I did well, I was doing it left to right, but it's just easier for me. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So again, I'm just going to make a little save mark so that I can go back and count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So if this mark was wrong, then all I would do is if I needed to move it up or down, I would just fill in the whole thing, and then I would know as I stitch that that mark wasn't right, because I only marked a little bit. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Also, when you're using the marking pen, don't be afraid to just go ahead and touch the squares, because touching the squares, no big deal. It's you know, this stuff washes off. In case you're wondering, with this pen, cold water, hot water, doesn't matter. This stuff washes off really, really easily. The link for this pen is down below if you want to use this. And I think I'm also going to actually make this a separate, like, how to grid video, so to speak. And so just for those that still want to just see what I do. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, perfect. So, and you also see that I go out beyond the point where I stitch, or sorry, the point, well, yeah, so this is the border of where I stitch, and I do the marking beyond the border. Now, the reason for that is because as I stitch down, if I want to go ahead and, so say I stitched like all this, and then I stitched a couple rows here, and I wanted to just go ahead and continue gridding. Say I don't grid the whole page at one time or something. This basically gives me an idea that I went ahead and I can count from out here and not have to worry about counting the rows of floss, which you can do it either way. But I just found, especially in some of my smaller projects, like my 18 count projects, that having an overlap like this makes it just easier to count going forward. So I'm just going to stop here with the gridding, but you can see you know how it goes, and it's one of those things that this is 14 count fabric, so it's a lot easier than doing something that's really, really small. This pen works great for 14 and 18, but anything smaller than that, you'd have to be really good, and I'm not at gridding, so that would be something else to do.